Today, I'm gonna give you my top 5 ditch fishing baits. As you guys can see, I've got 5 rods laid on the deck of the boat here. They are probably gonna be the only 5 rods, maybe plus or minus 1, that's gonna be on the deck of my boat all the way through the end of March. So these are the best, or my top 5 baits to catch fish in the ditches. Better yet, I'm actually gonna share a secret with you guys. If you guys watch all the way to the end of the video, I'm gonna give you a bonus bait that doesn't get talked about a lot. However, it's been extremely successful for me. I've caught some 5-pound spots on it, and it's just a great way to catch fish out of the ditches as well. So it's not laid out here, but like I said, watch to the end of the video and I will give you guys that secret bait. All right, starting off, my first favorite bait is a jig. I love the jig. It is a crawfish imitator. A lot of the time on highland reservoirs on a lake like Lanier, these fish are going to be feeding up heavily for the spawn. And in the winter time, the crawfish get very active. They're moving around the rocks. And a crawfish is just a meal that the spotted bass love feeding up on. So to start off in the mornings when the fish are a little bit shallower, I love throwing a jig. You can throw a jig down the middle of the ditch. You can throw it on kind of rocky points that kind of run into that ditch, or sideways, perpendicular to that ditch. So that jig is just a great crawfish imitator that will catch fish in the ditches. But again, that's a shallower bait. You can fish it deeper, it's just going to take a lot longer. I generally save this for, less than, I'll say 25, 30 feet. So that's kind of the shallower end, but a jig is a great way to catch a giant bass, and it straight up works, especially right now. As we move a little bit deeper, I'm gonna say from that 25 to 40 to 50 foot range, my next favorite bait is the Kitch. The Kitch is just a little swim bait. This one is a 3.3 right here, no secret. The Kitch works, but the swim bait is just a great shad imitator. In the wintertime, balls of bait such as threadfin shad and herring will group up in the ditches, and that's what the bass are feeding on. And those ditches are kind of highways for that bait fish to move up and down, and if the bait fish are there, obviously the bass are going to be there. So that Kitch is just a swim bait imitator that looks just like a herring or a threadfin shad. That's probably one of my better baits. That might be my number 1 fish catcher. It catches big fish, but just straight up numbers, that's a great bait to throw right there. And these baits, guys, are in no particular order. Like I said, I'm going from kind of shallower progression out to deep. So if I mention a bait second like this one, it doesn't mean it's the second best. Like I said, this is probably my number 1 fish catcher. Very similarly to the to the Kitch swim bait is the underspin. The underspin is a fantastic bait as well. On any particular day, if they stop eating that Kitch, this underspin has a little blade on it, and just that sound of that, or a little bit of the flash, depending on the conditions, can cause those fish to react or eat on any particular day when they're not eating that Kitch. So I always keep an underspin tied on as well. On any given day, rotate between those 2 swim bait imitators. Again, this looks just like a threadfin shad or a herring, and you're going to reel these baits very slowly on the bottom. And it's just a straight up fish catcher. Like I said, on any particular day, it could work, but that's number 3 on my top 5 list. As we get a little deeper, now I'm gonna jump into, 50 feet plus. There's not many lures that can get down to those fish at those depths. So for me, my first one on the list is a Demii. Something like that. And a Demii is a jig head, kind of like that Kitch swim bait. However, it's got a vertical line tie on top, which is 90 degrees straight out the top of its head, and that helps that bait sit exactly horizontal in the water. I pair that up with a very small trailer. I mentioned I use a 3.3 Kitech, or around a 3-inch trailer for my swim baits and underspins. For a Demii, go even smaller. I like to throw something 2 to 3 inches at the most, and that's just more of a finesse presentation. Looks like a threadfin shad. That's number 4 on my list. You can fish this bait in a variety of ways. You can cast it out and reel it back and kind of hop it over the fish. That's kind of a sneaky deal there. Kind of, you know, if you're on your forward facing sonar. Or if you see fish under the boat, just drop this underneath them and just slightly shake it above them, and the fish will come up and eat it. So that's a really good bait when the water, when they're out past 50 feet. And then finally, my last favorite bait for the ditches, same thing, beyond 50 feet is kind of best for this, but another vertical presentation, same as the Demii, is a spoon. And there's a bunch of different spoons out there. My opinion, it really does not matter a whole bunch. I've heard and have friends that catch them on a bunch of different brands, bunch of different colors. You might want to experiment with it day to day, but overall, silvers, whites, blues, anything natural colors looking. But that spoon is a great one. Again, when it's very deep, you see a school of fish come under your boat in the ditches, you can drop down quickly to them, and you're just hopping that spoon or ripping it up, and you can catch a bunch of fish that way. Most of these baits I'm fishing on either 8 or 10 pound line. In the wintertime, it's a little bit deeper, it's clearer water, and not only to not spook the fish, but also just to help keep the bait down there. The lighter the line, the less the bait is gonna rise, and most of these baits I'm fishing on the bottom, unless it's the vertical presentation like the Demii or the spoon. So I use a lighter line. And then the only exception to that is the jig. Sometimes I fish that around deeper rock and around timber. Like I said, shallower in the ditches, so I'll throw that on either 12 or 15 pound line. Hopefully that's a good start to get you guys going in the ditches. Grab any one of those. Like I said, they cover literally, you can fish those baits from the jig and the underspin and the swim bait, you know, up to, you know, 10, 15 feet of water, so pretty shallow, all the way out to some vertical presentations with the Demii and the spoon, all the way out to, you know, 50, 60 feet, no problems there. If you guys are unfamiliar with what a ditch is, you hear people saying it, but you don't really understand what it is, I recently posted a video, and I'll put that link right here if you want to go and watch it, but I explained in depth what a ditch is, how to break it down, what you're looking for when you're on the lake, and that'll just help you guys understand conceptually what a ditch is, and it'll help connect the dots and just put a bigger picture together on where you're supposed to be going, and then you can pick up these top 5 baits and go be successful fishing ditches. Before we go, I promised you guys that I was going to share with you one of my kind of secret baits, which is not so secret, but it's worked really well for me. It's caught some of my biggest fish in the wintertime. I don't know why. I think it's just a little bit different of a presentation, but that is the Nico rig. The Nico rig, my favorite way to rig it is just a Senko, so your 5-inch classic Senko, and then you're going to put a nail weight in the head. I like putting anywhere from, depending on wind and depth that I'm fishing, anywhere from an 1/8 all the way up to a 1/4 is kind of the range that I kind of go there for my nail weight. But that nail weight, and I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see that, but it's up in the head of the bait. So you have the tail, and then the nail weight goes in the front of the head, and then you put some sort of ring around the middle of the worm. And finally, you can use a drop shot hook, you can use a finesse wide gap hook, kind of like this one. And my favorite size for that hook is about a 1/0 hook. But this bait, you can fish it literally from 0 feet of water. It's so versatile, all the way out to, I'd say 50 feet. You can drop this vertically, and when it sits on the bottom, it's just gonna be like up like that. That tail's gonna be working around. Like I said, it's just a different action. I've caught so many 5-pound bass on this particular type of lure or way of rigging this worm. It's not even funny. I've probably caught more 5-pound bass on the Nico rig than any of the 5 baits I listed there. Those are all great numbers baits. This for me seems to be a big fish bait. I don't know why, but they like it. Finally, another little tip for you guys, if you've hung around all the way till the end here, I'd like to dip the tail in some sort of color. I like chartreuse and orange are my 2 probably favorites for Lanier particularly. It's just a flat out big fish catcher, like I said. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have any questions about ditch fishing or the baits I mentioned here, setup, line, reel speed, anything like that. Post them in the comments down below. Also, I want to know, what are your guys' favorite ditch fishing baits? Post them down in the comments as well. I'd like to know that just to learn for myself if you guys have any different baits that you use other than the ones that I just listed here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate the support. Please subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. Let's try to grow this thing to 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all soon.